Howdy, folks, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And tonight we got a great show for you. We're going to open our hearts and our minds to the world around us with my co-host, Lucky Stone, and our guest, Dalibor Suchi. Thank you for being here.
Pleasure to be here.
Great. So tonight we're going to be talking about opening your mind and hearts, and we're going to have kind of a spin-off on the A7's show last night of your awareness, because being aware, how much is your awareness? I know you guys talked about that a lot, and I really appreciate all the hard work that Lori and Teresa did, and Grandpa Brian and Trina and everybody who was on last night. It was a great thing, and I think we could put a little bit of a spin on that too. And I thought, what is self-awareness? And then what is the world around us? Are we really self-aware about the world kind of around us? And does that make us self-aware to things, that are happening? Do we actually see what is going on? That's the problem. I think we all live in this little bubble, and yeah, we may be aware of ourselves in this bubble, but are we really in a bubble? We're all in it together with everybody else, and with all the stuff that's going on in the world. Do we get affected by that? Are we so aware, thinking that we're self-aware, that we're letting all the stuff being absorbed into us? Things like, the government is going to come out with the alien theory. Everything we see and hear could be fake, which is a good one to talk about, because wasn't it just recently that one of our congressmen got a fake call from a fake person with a fake voice that was somebody else? And were they aware enough to notice it? What is AI really controlling us? And do we know it, or are we just oblivious to it all?
Well, human consciousness is at the core of the issue here, and human consciousness is very fallible. I mean, as anybody with any knowledge of cinematography knows, our vision can only perceive in 1/24th of a second intervals. In other words, if you have a series of still images 24 times a second, it appears to be fluid motion. That means that you're only capturing snippets of your visual reality in 1/24th of a second increments. And the same thing can probably be said of your audio input, your hearing, and your other senses. And since the only way that you can sense the world around you is through your five senses, and each of those being limited, it's difficult to say what percentage of your actual reality you can perceive. And that's aside from things like the mediumship of various things like the internet, media, television, radio, and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. But we get influenced by that. Can your subconscious pick out? You think it really can pick out fake stuff?
I think it can. Yeah, I mean, the fact that you've had like people with extraordinary abilities, like people who can do instantaneous calculations in their head, goes to show you that they're using a portion of their mind that we would call the subconscious or the unconscious mind, and doing those calculations in a split second. Means that they're utilizing, and I think it was Einstein who said that we only use 10% of our brains. I mean, I've heard it said that that's probably something he just made up out of thin air. But it seems kind of logical when you consider that there exist people like that like these savants that can do instantaneous calculations where the ordinary person can't.
Yeah. Well, there's also people who do that with music. They pick up something and, they can play just like that, but they can't read and write.
Sure. Yeah. Or people people who can learn or pick up on ancient languages like Akkadian or Sumerian or something like that, languages for which there is no immersion learning possible. In other words, there is no living population of people who speak Akkadian Sumerian, but still manage to speak it fluently and decipher like hundreds and thousands of tablets that are thousands of years old, in a language that nobody's spoken in the last 5,000 years or whatever. So yeah, people do have extraordinary abilities, but at this point, cognition is still best done by the human brain. Actual cognition in terms of judgment. But as regards sensory capabilities, the machines that we've created are actually better at that. A typical camera on a cell phone has better resolution capability than the human eye. Typical audio equipment that you have has better audio resolution than the human ear can pick up on. In other words, a typical song that you're hearing actually contains many more sounds that you actually can't hear. That's because due to the limited nature of our hearing, we can only hear between 20 hertz and 20,000 hertz.
Yeah. Lucky, what's your take on the self-awareness and being affected by the world around you?
I have no. When you talk about the senator or congressman who was talking to someone AI, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, it was like Schumer, and he was being talked about by the Speaker of the House or something, called him, and it wasn't. It was some AI generated thing, and right. I don't know where it went from there because it was kind of a blip on the news, but it just tells you that they can do that stuff. And we did shows on AI here before, and you played around with AI too. You made a nice video out of it, and it looked real. I mean, I did some too. It kind of looked pretty real. For the spur of the moment on the fly, it was, you couldn't tell the difference too much. I mean, but see, Delbert, when we were doing these things, and people see the stuff and they hear that AI and the fake voices or the propaganda, if that same guy who can add those numbers in his head, speak the Sumerian things, words and of dead languages has been gone for 1,000 years, then why, this is the big question, why do we fall for the stupidest little things that lead us astray? Is that our free will that says, you're really, you're going down the right path, but hey, any little butterfly that flies by, you're going to just stray off and get killed, kind of thing. Because that's the reality of it. This guy may be able to add the biggest numbers in his head in a second and be brilliant and be using maybe more than that 10%, which I think everybody uses their whole mind. It's just that they can utilize the mind better. But then you fall for the stupidest things like, hey, I'm going to give away all my information. I got this phone. It says, just accept if you want to play the game. Okay, I can play the game. And then, hey, they took all my information and stole my bank account. Why did they do that? Oh, my.
Yeah. Well, just because someone's smart doesn't mean they can't do a stupid thing.
Yeah.
Smart people do stupid things all the time. And that's why a lot of these people used to be called idiot savants, right? Like the guy who can regurgitate the number pi to several billion, million digits, and literally spend a whole 2.5 days just reciting a chain of numbers that how many times did he practice this? What hidden mental capabilities does he have? And which also begs the question, how useful of a skill is this? Can you put that on your resume? I doubt it.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, I think all of us here are really smart, but we've all done, silly, stupid things.
Oh, sure.
And does that does that make us not self-aware of the world around you, that we get led astray? That's what it boils. That's why I say, I was saying last night when Teresa brought that up, and I really appreciate Teresa bringing that up. And is then are we? We're not really truly self-aware, because we'd say, "Hey, wait a minute, that's fake." I can tell the difference. Why am I falling for the government trying to put out the message of aliens in our future reality? That ain't real. But yet we're all falling for it, and they're saying, "Oh, they could come any day. The mothership's just around the corner."
Well, see, that's the thing. I've heard it. I said it right from the get-go. I used to believe in aliens until the government told me to believe in aliens. And I may not be the brightest blade on the block, but looking at that testimony from that Grush guy, he just comes off as being insincere. I think he's lying. I don't think any of this is for real.
Well, the reason I think people believe that stuff is because there's a bit of truth in there that we can cling to. And so then we get led down astray on that way. It's kind of like there's people out there that don't believe in ghosts, and then there's people that just swear up and down that they believe wholeheartedly. And I know, Lucky, you went on some kind of ghost hunt here recently. Is there ghost or isn't there ghost?
You're asking me?
Yes.
That tour, yeah, there are ghosts. I see ghosts, but during that ghost hunt a couple weeks ago that I went on, I saw no ghosts. So, and that's a new experience for me, because wait, this is supposed to be, old and, distillery. So are there ghosts? Yes and no, depending on where you are and depending on how receptive you are and what time in the environment. It's to see a ghost takes a lot of things to happen together.
Yeah, I mean, I would 100% say that ghosts are for real, and because I've personally experienced ghosts on 2 different occasions. I mean, I lived in a haunted apartment for 7 years, and it was haunted by the ghost of the lady that died in that apartment under anomalous circumstances. I mean, she died of a heart attack, but upon her death, she was a loner. Her coterie of cats ate her dead body.
Right. See, now when I was a kid, there was a lady up the road named Harriet, and this was got me terrified of cats, is because I had a cat when I was a kid, but then the lady up the road had like 100 cats, and when she died, the cats ate her. And after that, I just been creeped out by cats, and
I've never had a cat. No, but yeah, there were anomalous things that happened in that apartment. I've detailed them on my blog and in a couple of A7 episodes. So that would be kind of repetitive. But one thing that triggered me to suspect that there was something foul going on in that apartment was the presence of all these preserved cat brains that she had. She was, first of all, she was a doctor, this lady, and there were like all these cat brains preserved in alcohol that she kept in the pantry. And I knew they were cat brains because we had one in our high school. So I knew what it looks like and the size and everything. It was like, wow, those are cat brains. Why? So yeah, that was kind of a creepy situation. And I also know very credible people who have experienced ghosts, like visual full body figure sightings.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people that have, and that, I mean, it's more likely there is ghosts than there isn't ghosts. But then again, the people who haven't had a sighting, to their mind, they don't exist. You can't convince them otherwise because, hey, that just doesn't happen. And, you can't bring them around. They just have that closed, fixed mind. They're living in their little bubble. But then again, there's other things that they'll believe. The distractions in the world. Let's see. So everything in our reality nowadays, unlike 150 years ago, for instance, or maybe even 100 years ago, today our reality could be more, in your mind than it will be reality. And that's what it's getting to be, because you turn on the TV and you watch a war, because right now it's war, everywhere. Is that reality? Is there a war? Or are we just seeing that? And it's not my reality. I don't see anything going on. There's nothing out there. Right? It's a peaceful, calm day. The birds are singing.
Sure. Well, nowadays, everything's gone virtual, right? In the past, if you opened up a bank account, you got this little booklet, right? If it was a savings account, if it was a checking account, you got a different booklet, and you would pass like physical media between participants to affect a transaction. Nowadays, you don't need any of that. Nowadays, you open a bank account, you can probably do it online with no paper at all. Nothing tangible, in other words, to prove to somebody that you have a bank account, because it's all virtual. And the same thing with our sources of information. Back in the past, every family had an encyclopedia, right? And nowadays, I don't know of anybody who has an encyclopedia in their home. Nowadays, everybody has access to Wikipedia.
Yeah, which in all reality can be manipulated.
And it is.
Yeah, and it is. And the thing is we all 90% of people go to Wikipedia because it pops up first on the Google search or whatever search you're doing. It pops up first. And because it pops up first, you click on it first, and then you go by that news and that information, even though it might be wrong, and then we trust it. I think, who was it? Somebody said something about, I got to get back to that. Lori said, if you believe in something, then that becomes your truth. Well, if you read it and you believe it, they put it out there. It might be fake, but you believe it because they told you, and you have trust in the system, which is where my point of this whole thing is going, is that our awareness for stuff. Well, like you said, we can tell the difference in that AI voice, or what's real or what's not, to an extent, and then our self-awareness seems to dissipate, for the truth, because like the headline said, your mind and your heart. And I think what happens is we don't trust our heart as much as we're trying to trust our mind with our eyes. What we see and what we hear is what's going in, and this is affecting our brain, because in our heart we know I want to say that's our subconscious talking to us. We know it really ain't real. We know something ain't really right. We do what our mind and our brain, and we've been told to. Is that not right?
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. Back in the past, people had trust in the media because it wasn't easy to hoax a media event, right? Nowadays, anybody with an internet connection can hoax a media event. They can put out a fake Twitter tweet saying this happened, in my hometown, and it'll take a while before the internet collectively figures out that nothing happened. In the past, that usually meant if something appeared on the news, that meant that a physical reporter got sent there. He witnessed it with his own eyes. That there was a big fire or something, and relayed that information back to headquarters, who then broadcast it to their customers. So it was more because back then news was an actual profession. It still is to this very day. Journalism is a profession. Nowadays, anybody can be a journalist. But that doesn't absolve the major media companies of fakery.
Yes, and we've all seen those ones where the news is somebody's captured 100 different news stations all saying the exact same thing. Makes you wonder.
And it's the same fake thing, like the collapse of World Trade Center 7.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just crazy how that goes. Okay, so next thing we got, I got a whole mess of stuff here that I wrote down. Lucky, what you got anything on that about the the insight on all this?
Well, the problem you're saying is why do people miss things? Well, one is that you want what you want. You tend to filter out things that are not what you want, and then you focus on what you do want. So if something comes to you and it sounds good enough, you're more likely to fall for it. And the other side is sometimes we're distracted, distracted by one thing. And then when this other thing comes up, you're more easily manipulated because you're distracted by something. And most of the distraction comes from our little black mirrors right here. I know I've got this. I've done the same thing where I got walking and I'm like, oh, what kind of bird that is? And then I took my phone to figure out what kind of bird it was. 'Cause I knew it was, and then I got lost and I started looking at things on the internet on my walk. So because I wanted to know what kind of bird it was and I couldn't figure it out. So then I went somewhere else and got in a tangent.
Yeah, we are losing ourselves to these devices, our black mirrors. You're so right, and that was one of my things I wrote down. The distraction. Could that be in a reset world? Are we in a world that's so full of distractions that they're trying to reset the world around us with new history, new Mandela effect? We talked about Mandela effects many times on different channels everywhere. People are always talking about, like, was this or was this that? I remember it as Luke, I am your father. Who was it? Was it Lucy? And it got some explaining to do. Who doesn't remember that? But then where did it go? Nobody can find the proof. And they go round and round. It never existed. Did it exist? No, it did. Yes, no. People fight over this. It's a distraction. Well, because while we're being distraction, like you said, I want to see what bird that is. Then you pick up the phone, you forget where you're at. You're on your phone, you're doing stuff, and the world is passing by you when you're supposed to be enjoying nature. Now, years ago, and you guys are both old enough for that, you would have either took a picture of it with your camera that you had hanging around your neck or in your pocket, maybe, because we're not that old. We had to carry a big camera around, but we would have took a picture of it, and then we would have looked it up in that encyclopedia, or you would have went to the library, or maybe even had a book at home that had all the birds of your state or area, and you looked up and said, yeah, look, I seen one of these birds right here. This is it. And you would have read some information about it. And you would have spent some quality time doing some research.
Yeah, and it would have been a lot tougher to get distracted, because once you got a big, heavy reference book in front of you, you're pretty much stuck on that one topic. And you're not easily going to be distracted by something in the sidebar or whatever, and that's why I have eschewed the use of a mobile phone. I mean, I have them, and I use them for things like internet banking or navigation, but that's about it. I don't use them. I don't even keep them in the same room as I am, because even if I'm like waiting for something, if I'm waiting in an office or whatever, I don't have to look at my hand all the time. I don't have to constantly be updated on what's going on in the world. Why don't I just take note of my surroundings, of the decor, of the people around me? I also go by the principle that if everybody's doing it, it's probably not a good thing. I'm conformity not being the same as morality. Marching to the beat of a different drummer, because that's a strategy that's always paid off for me in the past. I mean, I've never been a conformist.
Yeah, well, and that's true. So in this new future that we're going into, people are not self-aware. I say they're being taught not to be self-aware. They get distracted by your device. They give away their information, and this thing tracks you. It takes pictures of you. It's probably
It listens to you.
It's listening to me right now, and all the words I say, and all the things I did in my house, and whatever it was, it's 24/7. And when I'm getting all done with this, it's recording me. And just like you were saying about all this and this and that, it's going to eventually catch up with you for your past mistakes to come back and haunt you if you
Sure.
do the wrong things in the future, like we've seen so many times with these people who are running for president, and all of a sudden there's a film of some guys that's running that says, oh, I'm gonna be the ruler of the world. He's 10
Mm-hmm.
years old riding a bicycle. We all know
Mm-hmm.
who that guy is, and I ain't gonna mention his name, but anyway, the point there, he's like, I'm gonna run this world like whatever. And then now, 60 years later, it's like,
Yeah.
dude, I said it when I was 10.
Mm-hmm. I know. I know. Yeah, that's the double-edged sword of unlimited information. I mean, yeah, and that's also the fault of the media and media bias, in that the media is basically degenerated into nothing more than the church of the state. It's just enforcing the government's agenda because it's documented that most of these most of these news organizations are infiltrated by counterintelligence and intelligence agents. There were hearings in Congress about it. It's a known fact. I think it was called Operation Mockingbird. And I don't think it was ever terminated, and that's just in the United States. I'm convinced that it holds true in all the world's media. That it's just following a government agenda. So if there's something newsworthy going on that's in the interest of the people and not the government, the media is not going to report on it. That's why platforms like Twitter are pretty much the last bastion of freedom that we have, or even Facebook, where ordinary people can post real news. This is happening to me right here, right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's happening exactly. So here's a really good question. Really good question. So why are you using it? He's talking about the phone. Why are you using that robot phone? Why am I
Mm-hmm.
using it? Why do we all use it? I mean, why? What's the
Like
point?
I said, I don't.
I don't want to, but you got it in your house, it's probably listening to you. I mean, even if you
That's
got it covered up, it's probably still listening some way or another.
It's in my case, all my mobile phones are on the other side of the apartment. As a matter of fact, I can't sleep when I have any kind of mobile device in the same room as I.
Oh yeah, you got
And
that EMF
I have
radiation.
EMF sensitivity, yeah. So, I keep this machine off because this is wireless. And like I said, that's on the other side of the apartment where it's in the chargers and everything. And I don't use them. I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on Facebook. The only social media I'm on is Minds, which is a true free speech platform.
Mm-hmm.
So, although with limited appeal, not that many people are on Minds, but a lot of interesting people are on Minds.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've also noticed that, when I used to just turn this off and not take the plug out, occasionally what would happen is I would notice that the camera light would come on, even when the damn thing was off. So I had to not just power it down, but cover the camera and take the power cord out.
Wow.
Because yes, yes.
Wow.
So, they can do that, whoever they is.
Yeah,
And
that's the thing. It's a they. Like we don't even know who or what to call it. I mean, it may be AI.
THEY, the
Yeah,
hierarchy enslaving you.
yeah, exactly. Lucky, you're quiet over there. Do you have one of these? And why do you use it? Why do you have it? What makes you be able to use your phone? I mean, what's the reason behind it?
Me, it's all about connection, communication. If work is get a hold of me, I got to have my phone. If I'm out and about and my wife got to get a hold of me, um, could I go a day without using it? Yes, if I didn't have to worry about someone needing to contact me. That's it. I mean, could I go with a clamshell phone? Yes, that would have. I would be able to still communicate with just it. No smartphone clamshell, and yeah, could it go a day without phone? Yes, but I'd have to probably switch it to a clamshell phone. Just have it for phone. You know,
Hmm.
that's the trick. But why? It's just about. I mean, I just in an. It's just easy to have the information you need. Get a hold of anyone in the family or work. That's my thing. Also, is that I don't always get phone calls, but I will get. It's called Teams messages,
Yeah.
which is on my work computer, but it's also linked to my home phone. Where if there's a Teams message, it pops on my phone.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Hmm.
and that's true. I get same reason for me. I got it for work. They need to call me. As you all know, I'm usually on call
Yep.
and monitoring the phone even while I'm doing a show. I'm looking at the phone. I got it right here, work phone, saying, "Hey, ding, ding, ding. You might have to go." And that is quite the thing. But like on days that I'm off, I tend to not have it in my hand so much around. I'll put it down and kind of forget about it. Um, Teresa said something about here, laugh out loud. No phone equals laptop if you have the will, a way to communicate. And that's the thing. Could you go a day without communicating with other people? Just actually without tech, how do I say, besides verbally, face to face. Could you go a
Sure,
day? Yeah,
sure, sure. I've
yeah,
done it. I could go a week or a month, not a problem, really.
yeah.
Uh, I mean, like I said, I have mobile phones. I have three of them, but I don't use them. I only use them for the purposes necessary, like navigation or specifically internet banking,
Mm,
where you need that as a two-factor authentication system of verification. That's all.
yeah,
If if it wasn't for the maps, for Google Maps, I don't think I'd have even that. I would go with the TAN generator for
yeah,
online banking.
yeah. Well, and I agree. I totally agree with that. Good night, Grandpa Brian. He said, no, thank
Yeah,
you.
well, he's got a chunk of road behind him. He went from
Yeah.
Indiana to Arizona.
Wow.
I
Good.
mean,
Yeah, that was quite a road trip. I love it. I hope to get
mhm,
get doing a road trip like that myself someday. If I
mhm,
ever get a day off, it seems like it's say I've been working a lot. But yeah, that's the thing is putting the phone down is good, because that's where they get you through the eyes, your ears, and it influence you. Because if I just go out in nature, I kind of forget about the rest of the world. Lucky, I
mhm,
know like you go on those walks. I love the walks. You go out there and you're videotaping a stream or a bird or something like that with your phone. I imagine it's your phone, and that's fine. It's just you know, but you're out there. Hopefully you're not like you said. You want to look up that bird now, and all of a sudden you're forgetting about the world and where you're at, and it it it's it kind of fogs your mind. I do the same thing. I sit down at the computer to look up something for the show, and the next thing you know, oh that looks interesting. Boy, that and now I'm all way off track. I got a stack of books over here, like 3 foot high that I need to read that I just bought, and yet here I get caught up. Well, that look, maybe that should, it's not even part of the subject I'm looking for. I looked it up
mhm,
already, but that looked cool. And then next thing you know, 20, 30, 40 minutes go by, and I go, where did time go? Oh my gosh,
mhm.
you know. And it's like somebody said here, well, it's how much energy you want to put into it, that the distractions and stuff. But sometimes it's like a sucking force, sucking your
Mhm.
energy by showing you things that kind of interest you, and you're like, ooh, okay, well, that
Well,
looks like cool, you
that's
know.
why that's why like in the last salary job I had, I worked for the Czech National Stock Exchange, and they offered me like a company phone with unlimited data, unlimited minutes, and I turned it down. I said, no, I don't want it. Because
Mm-hmm.
like, why should they have the right to contact me uh, on my off days, or when I'm not at work? Like, why? When the market's closed anyway, why? so some high-powered clients can get a hold of me and take me out to lunch or something, or what for? No, I'm not at work. I'm not getting paid for that. And I really value my personal time, because if I'm contracted to do 8 hours of work a day, 8 hours they'll get, no more.
Yeah, yeah, and that's so true. That's so true. Why? It's like me. I'm the same way. But then I'm like, here I got this phone. They give me a work phone, and
Hmm.
sure, it's great at work. But then, really, in reality, but now I'm on call, so now I got to have the
Yeah.
phone, and it's dings, and I got to look. And
Yeah.
but on the days that I am off, I literally try to shut it off and have a break. And it's like you can feel as soon as you shut that thing off, stress just goes away.
Well,
you know?
maybe you're electromagnetically sensitive like me.
Yeah, yeah. But I got to keep the phone kind of close so that I can hear it ring in the middle of the night, or when it beeps, I can get up and check and see if it's an emergency or not.
Hmm.
But well, that's yeah. But one of the next things that we got on there is, have we been led down, which kind of boils down to the same thing? Have we been down a road of bait and switch? You know, um, Bait and switch, the bait and then the switch.
In what sense?
In what sense? Okay, it's kind of do with the AI and these cell phones and the computers coming, the robots. You know,
Hmm.
hey, we can get robots to do this hard labor. You've seen these new robots and the ones that are running the restaurants and all these different things, the building a car or doing menial. I've heard so many times now on the radio or the internet here about, well, they'll take over all those menial repetitive tasks.
Well, it always starts out innocently enough, but it ultimately turns into something you don't want. If they can take over those jobs, pretty soon they'll take over all the jobs, right? And the
Yeah,
only people making any money will be the people who own the robots.
yeah, and that's the thing is the bait and switch is, yeah, well, then once we get the robots, we won't need you. And we're
Hmm.
all like, yeah, we want robots, and they're going to work. They're going to clean my house. They're going to go to work and do all those hard jobs that I hate to do. That pushing the button and moving the lever and all those things over and over and over. Well, I won't have to do that. Well, you know what? That's what they pay me to do, is move the lever and
Yeah.
push the button, and and now
Hmm.
we don't need you. Just like that chat GPT thing is getting out there, and places are like, well, we can have one guy and he just puts in the inputs, and then thing writes a nice article, and he can do 20, 30 articles in a day, and we don't need all these reporters.
Hmm.
We were talking about reporters earlier. Lucky
But
you work in an office kind of setting. When how valuable are you compared to a chat GPT? Can that thing do your job?
No, it can't. That's the thing. My job is about taking information, make a comparison, and then trying to create um, a, a possibility. They do have Chat GPT in my company, and one of the steps is put in the information in Chat GPT and see what you get. And that's when they
Mhm,
contact me. Says, "Yeah, we talked to Chat GPT. It told us to do this. This doesn't make any sense. And you
mhm,
approve it?" And I'm like, "Of course I wouldn't approve it. That's stupid." And I
mhm,
have
mhm,
to respond back because the requested answer from the AI thing was in, inadequate or something silly like that.
mhm,
So no, they approved that they can't do my job because it takes human thought to take the information available. Will it be able to?
mhm.
It'll maybe half the time, but there's a lot of things that are nuanced. A lot of the decisions I make are kind of gray, and then I have to defend the decision I make. So with if ChatGPT says, "Okay, this is what you're going to do," it could never defend this position to say, "Oh, well, that was done before," or that's all they can do.
Yeah, well, that's because it doesn't have discernment, and also people fallaciously assume that it's infallible somehow. But about a year ago, I started playing around with ChatGPT until I got kicked off, banned from it permanently, and when I attempted to log back in, I got cut off from the internet a couple of times. As a matter of fact, it can do that. Um, no, I've caught it in several inconsistencies and outright lies. So I wouldn't rely on ChatGPT for anything other than making poems or whatever, something innocuous. I wouldn't use it for any actual research.
But
See,
that's your problem, though. Your thing, you wouldn't rely on it. You have to remember the
Mhm.
managers are looking for ways of making money,
Oh yeah.
saving money.
Mhm.
The more money they said to get a bonus. So by ChatGPT being such a failure, it proves how our jobs are to the managers, because I know the company
Mhm.
I work with had a major layoff and they were
Mhm.
cutting jobs here and there. But my department, I was told, will not be affected whatsoever. It
Mhm.
worked out pretty well.
Mhm.
So in that respect, so now you're using the GPT stuff. So eventually this thing is getting smarter all the time. I mean, a
So they
company was
say.
No,
well,
no,
so this,
it's the same information going in. It's the only thing ChatGPT knows is what was on the internet.
mhm,
That's it. So is it
Mhm.
getting smarter? It's only getting smarter because it's able to collect more information, but the information really doesn't change that much. You know,
mhm,
it could work faster with more information, but still the same knowledge base is there. So
mm.
I don't worry about ChatGPT.
Mhm.
Well, like it says, all things start harmlessly, and then a lot of times they don't work really good in the beginning. We've seen that throughout history. Oh, somebody invented something. Well, look at the first computer, as big as a building, kind of thing. And what could
Yeah.
it do? I got this cell phone can do more than that giant building full of computer. You could add some
Yes, true,
numbers,
true.
Mhm.
and but yet they kept at it. See, that's the thing. They kept at it and kept at it and kept at it until now it's this big, and you can have it on. Here's Chat GPT, and it's working. To an extent, and people are playing with it. And if it wasn't any good, nobody would want to use it.
Mhm.
So then they would trash it, but they're not trashing it, and they're using it, and like I said, um, it's gonna get out there, and it's gonna make news. It's gonna put people out of work. The AI, the robots are gonna be programmed to like Amazon. Amazon's employing robots instead of humans. They got a burger joint that's flipping burgers and makes burgers, and the guy says, "Yeah, well, he never gets tired. His arm never gets burnt from the hot grease, and it's all timed, and he never, I don't have to pay him workman's comp, and he shows up every single day, works 24 hours a day for me anytime I need him. He's right there."
Well, see, yeah, they say that the best laid plans always lead to failure, right? Well, what happens if like robots take over something like warfare,
Yeah,
right? And
well,
both
yeah.
sides have AI, and both sides are using robot warriors, and it gets down to like no humans involved whatsoever, and no humans getting killed. So therefore, is it a real war? Or is it something like that one Star Trek episode where they would just like have computers at random select victims, and they would willingly go into like these suicide pods,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm,
I'm sure you're familiar with that episode. Is it going to be
mhm.
like that, where it's, or is it going to make war less personal? Is it going to be just about property destruction? Is it going to make life any better ultimately? I don't think
Mm.
so. If we relegate our mental tasks and our uh, psychological abilities to something like AI, then we're heading down the road to idiocracy
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, we
because
are.
people are getting lazier, stupider. They can't do basic computation. That's why I've, for the most part, stopped using like a calculator because I caught myself doing 10 times 100, one time. Like, no, this got to stop.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. Start relying on it, and
Hmm.
then depend on it. It's kind of like nowadays. Most people can't remember telephone numbers anymore. Back in the day, I can, believe it or not, I can still remember the telephone numbers from when I was a kid. But today, I don't know. I don't know whose number is what
Hmm.
because I
Hmm.
look at the name. And the cell phone holds all the numbers. I program into once, and even when I do get a number from somebody, they'll say, "Here, I'll send you my contact," and it comes up with their name and number and everything, and then I just have to push in their name, and boom, spelling. Bad spellers years ago are now good spellers because the computer underlines the wording, and it says, "Hey,
Hmm.
that's a wrong word. Just pick the right word. Here's three choices."
Hmm.
Or
Yep. Hmm.
uh, so little by little, you know, our awareness for the world around us is, I'd say, oh yeah, Steve says technology dependence is real, and yeah, we become dependent on it. Our back to the awareness
Hmm.
is going away. We are not aware that we're adding. Well, you are, but aware of 10 times, 100 is what, and you're because you didn't. Yes, you didn't use brain anymore.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, it's more true now than ever before that, if they were to shut the power off, and we were like thrown back to like an 1800s existence, most people wouldn't survive. They
Yeah.
wouldn't know how to, do basic things like make do without a refrigerator,
Mhm.
like preserving meat, using salt to preserve meat, drying meat, curing meat. Um, basic stuff like that is stuff that you learn or used to learn in the Boy Scouts.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So here's a good one for you. Can you recognize this?
It's a pen.
Yeah, it's a pen,
Fountain pen. It's a fountain
Yeah.
pen.
fountain pen.
Yes.
Yeah, nobody
Calligraphy.
writes. Yeah, nobody writes with those pens anymore. But when you write with that, I notice when I write in cursive, writing, this this writes really good. You
Hmm.
know, when you write in this, you want to write, which is a pen. It's one of those cool ones with the little light on it. But
Hmm.
anyway,
Yeah, because it also has a preferred way of being drawn on the paper because you
yeah,
can't draw it backwards. So
yeah,
it's like anisotropic in a sense.
that
So,
that
and as a matter of fact, when I was a kid, for part of my childhood, I grew up in northern Germany, right? And in northern Germany, they taught kids to use just those pens. They
uh,
didn't in the United States. I never experienced having to use that as a kid, but in Germany, we had to use that and learn the Schwabach style of writing, which is still used to this day, but only in northern Germany do they teach kids that. And that's the
yeah,
style of German writing that uh, it's difficult to explain, but if you just look up German writing on the web, you'll get the idea.
yeah.
And that's
Well,
why it looks the way it does, because you can only draw that using that type of pen.
yes, and that's true. When I write with this type of pen, my awareness for writing goes down the hill, and I want to print. So everything
Hmm.
I do is printing, and then when I get this pen, I can actually my cursive stuff comes right back, and it's like, wow, this is pretty darn cool,
Yeah,
And
ballpoint pen is more designed for drawing
yeah,
than for writing, actually. At least writing in the traditional sense. That also, expands your mind as to, the evolution of writing instruments and things like that. Why do we write from right to left? It's because most people are right-handed, and when you're writing something, you don't want it to be overshadowed by your hand, right? So you want to be able to see what you're writing. So that's why some languages, like say Hebrew, are written from right to left because there's more Hebrews that are left-handed as opposed to right-handed, or maybe were when the language was evolving into its written form.
yeah, yeah. I'm right-handed. You right-handed?
Well, I was born left-handed, but in
Oh,
in Catholic school they taught us that we have to write with our right hand. So I'm
oh,
both actually.
oh.
So
Ambidextrous. Lucky?
I use the left hand for the mouse.
No.
I'm
So,
right-handed, but I'm also partially ambidextrous.
Mhm.
oh.
Yeah.
That's
It hurt my arm when I was a kid, so I kind of learned the left hand for a while. That really sucked. My writing was terrible.
Same here. I
oh
also fractured my wrist when I was a kid, and I had to learn how to write with my left hand. Relearn how to write with my left hand.
Yeah, so
wow.
that was a weird time. Yeah, so I am right-handed predominantly, but I sometimes use my left hand quite a bit also for when I'm not thinking about it, like brush my teeth and weird things. Eating just
Mhm.
clicks in, and I don't know why. I am right-handed. I write with my right. I prefer use my right hand, but sometimes left hand. Okay, what could be?
Hmm.
Do you know that the it boils down to Christianity, how you using your right hand versus your left. Speaking of you, how you did it
Yeah.
was that
Yeah.
they believed something about if you use your left hand, that's the devil thing, or something like that. I
Mm,
remember reading, so I don't know the whole technical terms. People look it up for yourselves, but I do remember it had to do something with if you're left-handed, that's a devil thing. Right hand is a good, and it's like, what
mhm.
are you people talking about? So they, just like you, they made you learn with your right hand, even though you should have been learning in the beginning with your left.
Yes, I know. I know. I agree. I should have been learning with my left, and the teachers should have had the presence of mind to recognize that it would have been better had I been reinforced in that. But yeah, that goes to show you that religion is just another social control system, and in most cases, it's also like a crystallization of OCD. And some religions are worse than others, like Judaism. That's like totally
Mm-hmm.
OCD. No
Well, yeah,
offense, but it is.
yeah, it is, and that's the thing too. Is here again, our awareness to the world. We believe, oh yeah, I'm going to believe that, yeah, because I use my left hand. I'm going to the devil, so I got to learn to use my right. Who
Mhm.
thinks like that? It's like, oh my gosh, where did you throw this? Who believe? Are people that gullible?
Well,
This
see,
is
that begs the question of like the whole, interpreting reality through the internet. In the past, people didn't even have that. In the past, people were interpreting reality through something even worse, and that's like the Bible.
yeah.
You realize that? You realize that that was the lens that through which they saw their reality was
Wow.
through like a set of late Neolithic documents that was curated by some guy in the 4th century named Polycarp, where he said, "Okay, this is good. This goes in the Bible. This does not go in the Bible," and so on and so forth, and assembled the 66 books of the Bible that we have today. Go figure.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and and it got reinforced in people, to the extent that a lot of our laws are based on things in the Bible, right? Uh, Yet it's very selective. People say, "Oh, you're a good Christian if you follow the Ten Commandments." Well, most people break those Ten Commandments all the time. The fact that they haven't broken, the "Thou shalt not kill" commandment doesn't mean that they're good people, because it says nothing about like "Thou shalt not be an asshole." Thou shalt not make this earth a hell on earth, right?
Mhm.
It almost makes you want to take the side of this adversary guy, this devil, because after all, even if you read the Bible front to back, uh, you'll come to the conclusion that the devil's never killed anyone, but God, oh man, oh, has he killed a lot of people?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
like the Canaanites.
And it wasn't, he didn't just stop at that. Like, get rid of them all and all their animals and all their stuff, and they're like
Yeah,
poison or something. It just makes you wonder, was he was prejudiced to, if he made all the people, then what was wrong with those people?
that's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, why should somebody say something as conceited as "God bless America," right? Because didn't God create all nations, all people? Like, why should He bless only that specific nation?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, that leads
I
us
mean,
up to our next question of the day, pertaining to all this, our self awareness and Christianity, whatever religion you are. And as you know, people are kind of dropping from all that. The people nowadays, there's a lot of them out. I'm not saying all of them, but people aren't converting as much as they're dropping out. Or they say, "Oh yeah, yeah, I believe in God," da, 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 but none of them seem to have ever really studied anything. None of them, they're all like, oh yeah, I believe, but they've never read the Bible. So they're like wannabes. They just kind of have that, yeah, but they don't go to church. And if they do go to church, it's to socialize. I know some people that are like that. They don't quite believe, but they go to church to socialize. They read the Bible, but they don't know what it means, and they're trying to study it, and da 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 da. But yeah, they're kind of wishy-washy on that. So, but here's the thing. So with our awareness, self-awareness, are people waking up and saying, well, yeah, I just don't kind of get that? Or are we being indoctrinated into a different, how should I say, system? Because the system nowadays is instantaneous. And it's a new, as you know, in history, religions come and go. We'll put it that way. There was, what is it? I don't know, Zoroastrianism. Then there was, Judaism, and it's progressed. And then there was Christianity. Each one of these branched off of the other one. And they morphed and morphed. Well, what's the new one coming up? It's going to be your AI God. It knows everything about you. It watches you day and night. But here's the thing that the young kids don't get, that they do get, that the old people don't get, is the kids want to interact. And the old people would be like, oh, I prayed and blah, blah, blah. I'm not picking on anybody with a religion. It's just the point that, the old people would pray and think they get visions and voices in their head, whatever. The kids nowadays, they want instantaneous. They get on Google and say, hey, Google, hey, Alexa, whatever it is, Siri, who knows, and they get an answer. They don't, and then that operates the lights. Alexa, turn on the lights. Alexa, turn on the radio. Alexa, turn up the heat. You know what? They're commanding God. They might as well just and now, hey, Alexa, or ChatGPT, write me an article for school. And now, what if they morph into a religionist kind of thing? I mean, they had really crazy religions, wasn't it? Star Trek, the Church of Star Trek, and Klingon.
Yeah,
like,
the Avatar religion, right? I mean, I could see that, but that's. I don't think that necessarily means that we're going to see another spin-off religion or even a new religion at all. Because I think a lot of people are gravitating away from religion, because what is religion? It's, like I said, a social control system, an ideology, right? And we know from history, that's if you study it actually, that no ideology has ever benefited mankind. Ever. None. Whether that's leftism, rightism, whether that's capitalism, communism, none of that in its sum totality has ever benefited the whole of humanity. And you could say, oh, capitalism is better than communism, but well, can you really prove that when 50% of the globe is living on $2 a day? No, I don't think so. I don't think those people would agree. That's necessarily a viable. Sure, free market, freedom, that works. But no, you don't want any kind of ideology, and nowhere is that more apparent than in countries that have a repressive religion, like right here in Germany, where you pay the so-called Kirchensteuer, which is a 9% income tax on top of your income, right? So a lot of people are just finding out about this. It's like they didn't know about this before the internet came along, and a lot of people are leaving the Catholic Church or the Christian churches, because if you're a member of whatever denomination, 9% of your income goes to that denomination, right? So that's why when I moved here, I declared myself an atheist, which I am, because I don't believe. Doesn't mean I don't believe in God. I just don't believe in any religion, because actually. The word atheist means you don't believe in a theology, right? It doesn't mean you don't believe in God, and which is besides the point, because any true God doesn't care if you believe in him. Why would he?
Yeah, well, but see here, you just rattled off basically what AI is going to be. AI don't care about you. AI isn't going to really benefit humankind. it could twist the Bible just a little bit, just like all the other ones, and mark it off of that.
Hmm.
I don't know how would you do it. I'm just speculating, but for the younger folks are going to turn to that because it's already serving them. It's already watching them. It knows what you're gonna. It's like Santa Claus. It knows what you're gonna do before you do it. It knows when you're good and nice. It's watching you through
Hmm.
this cell phone and listens through the cell phone. It's there all the time, and
Hmm.
and then it can give you answers. And I think somebody said here, you don't need to know a lot. You just need to know how to operate the technology and stuff. So lucky you deal with computers all day and things like this. And you were in the religion. What's your take on this?
There's a lot with that. I mean,
Do you
will
think there's going to
children?
be an AI, God, Bible? And I'm not saying it's happening today. Today is the start of it. It's leading up to maybe 10 or 20 years into the future.
I don't think AI would want to be a god. I don't think an AI god could evolve only because I don't think it cares. It would rather manipulate through data, information than manipulate through, dogmas. Religion and dogmas. So it'll make people think that they don't have a religion and that they're free, and then show them, the better way, which is basically just what the AI wants. Um, I've seen it.
And
I've seen it. The information it gives you is because it wants to lead you in a certain way because it is programmed that this is the better way. So, AI will only, you know, will continue. It would only want to give you the answers that knows that you'll return in the future. So, good enough answers, or enough of the truth so that you come back for more information. If it doesn't give you what you want, you're not going to come back. That program's going to get deleted because no one wants to use it.
Yeah.
hmm And I think, yeah, I think the era of religion is gone basically because picking a religion means picking a side, and I think more people are reluctant to do that because you never know which side is going to win, right? You never know which side is going to turn against you, because it wasn't that long ago when two of my relatives ended up in a concentration camp because they were members of a religion that the state did not approve of.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but see, that's the thing. When people drop out and religion is failing, that creates a vacuum that opens the doors for a new one to come in. It's like that everywhere. Get rid of one cartel and a new one steps in. You get rid of one government, a new one steps in because you created that vacuum. Maybe it's empty for a little bit, but as
Hmm.
soon as one religion drops out, and I believe another one conveniently will put itself in its place.
Well, it could be something like Scientology, which calls itself a religion, but it's not really a religion, right?
Mhm.
It serves the function of a religion in that it's a psychological control mechanism. So yeah, realistically, in the future, religion could be replaced by something like or on the order of Scientology. Yeah,
Yeah,
I could go with that.
yeah. I
But
mean,
again, it takes a special type of independent thinking to wean yourself off of that. That belonging to some club is going to get your soul saved. You know, you got to disabuse yourself of that notion. Just because religion has always served to like divide and conquer because it sets one group of people apart and saying, okay, you guys are chosen and everybody else is scum, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
that
We just
that's
did that
not
show.
gonna
We
that's not
we
gonna
just
lead to like cooperation. No.
Yeah, we did that show on Nina's channel just a week ago about the Jewish people were saying, hey, we're the chosen people. Everybody else is gonna once we get rid of that, we burn that red heifer. Everybody else will go away, and we'll be the only ones left, and we're the best, and nobody
Hmm.
cares. Blah blah blah. And we're doing another one tomorrow night on her channel, so go join us there. It's going to be about Trump. So check that out.
Hmm.
Link is in the chat here, and I'll
But
put it in the description later.
that's the thing. Every religion says that about itself.
Well, of course. And then you join up with the one that you feel like you belong or you resonate with, and I agree with you. I don't want to be part of any of that stuff.
No.
It's just, it taints me. But then again, but it doesn't matter because it'll be a wave when that's how it always is. There's always a religious war, and if you're in the middle of it, you're gonna get whacked some way or another. They don't care about you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I started out my political life as a Republican, and I still have my Republican membership card, right? But did I agree with the presidency of George Bush the First? No. Did I agree with the presidency of George Bush the Second? No.
Yeah, exactly, and that makes it really hard joining up with a religion, and then they try to indoctrinate you and rule. Like you said, hey, if you're in Germany and you're part of a religious group, well, you're getting docked 10%.
Yeah, why? Why would you give these people any money? For all the funerals they perform, for all the marriage ceremonies, they charge you for that anyway. So why? What's the point?
Yeah.
And they always say, well, if it wasn't for Christianity here in Europe, then we wouldn't have all these beautiful cathedrals and everything. Like, the priests didn't build those. The bishops didn't build those. It was ordinary laborers. It was architects and engineers that built those things. And, besides, we had culture on a very high level even before Christianity showed up. Before it invaded this continent, it didn't originate here. So I don't see why it's considered like a European thing, when the original religions here were, for the most part, polytheistic and nature-based religions, like Druidism, Wicca, that sort of thing. That's the true European religion.
Well, and you're right, and a lot of religions, especially churches and stuff, will knock down a building or take over a building and build on that same religious site. It makes me wonder what sites some of these big giant cathedrals were built on. Did they clear the land and build it from scratch, or did they build it over the top of some other big giant, mega church cathedral thing that was there in the first place? Or is that a part of something, which makes you wonder, how old is that thing? Was that an ancient structure from way back when, and they just added to it?
In a lot of cases, yes. In a lot of cases, they were built over, previous holy sites. And usually these coincide with energy ley lines in the earth that have pretty much remained fixed for the past couple of thousand years. And these also coincided with trading routes or roads that we had back then, which evolved into paved roads that we have today, and which follow natural contours in the landscape. Features like rivers and mountain passes and that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. What did they know that we don't follow today?
And usually, if you go in, there's parts of Europe that are completely flat, and in those places, if you look out at the landscape, you can see this village there. The first thing you always see is the church, right? Yep. Because that's usually the tallest building. And even in this town that I live in, the church is actually the tallest building here.
How cool. And yet that's kind of how it is. The churches are always the biggest, tallest buildings in town. I love this. As Steve says, my evangelical friend says that this channel is witchcraft. Well, if you want to know, witchcraft is knowledge of wisdom, and occult knowledge is the unknown wisdom, and that's what we got here. Unknown wisdom, bringing it to you live. Come on, get with the program, people.
A lot of these witches, especially in Europe, they were people who were experts at what we would call today pharmacology, science, herbology, medicine. A lot of these women were like midwives. They were experts at producing various ointments, essential oils, healing medicaments of various types.
Yep.
So, yeah, and since a lot of that was an oral tradition that wasn't written down, it wasn't written down for a specific purpose, and that is to keep it from getting into the hands of the enemy, right? To make
Mhm.
sure that only certain people had this knowledge. Also, job security.
Yeah.
So,
You go to the doctor, he'd bleed you. You go to the witch down the road, and she would give you some herbs and stuff that they would cure you. You
mhm,
know, and then of
yeah,
course, when everybody got mad, they would do like they did back in Salem there, and they would burn you at the stake because their pig died or their dog was
mhm.
acting funny, and
Yeah,
you
well,
know,
that was caused by, as we've discussed today, a power vacuum, right? Where all the local leaders left to go to like the Constitutional Convention,
mhm.
right?
Yep, they did, and things got out of hand. But anyway, well, we should wrap this up because I'm sure a lot of people want to head over to Max Vision Remote View class. We're
Yeah.
going to be doing some remote viewing and using your brain to see the future. Any last words, Lucky Stone? You got any last words for us? Take us out.
Well, will this be on a podcast?
The what?
Will this be on your podcast?
Yes. I'm going to upload this onto Spotify. I'm on Spotify, everybody. You can go over to
Cool.
Spotify and check me out there. Milky Way Soul Tribe. Link is in the description below. And you don't have to look at our faces. You can just listen to our wonderful, beautiful voices.
So if anyone's listening to the podcast, give it 5 stars.
Yes.
It'll really help the channel.
Mhm.
Besides that, it's life's what you make of it. I mean, if you're positive, more positive comes around you. So I'm not really too worried about AI.
Yeah. It's got a
I
long way to go. I think you're right.
I would say that humans will always have a place in human society, obviously, right? AI can only do so much, and AI's fatal flaw is its greatest asset at the same time, and that's the fact that it thinks only logically.
Mhm.
Humans, a lot of human innovation comes about through things like irrationality or happenstance, or dreams. A lot of like the chemical structure of benzene was discovered in a dream, right? And
Really?
the guy, his name was Kekulé, and he was a chemist. Couldn't figure out like how these 6 carbon atoms were linked together, and then he had a dream about it, and it turns out that that is the actual way that it's linked up, the hexane ring.
Mhm.
So,
Oh,
yeah, humans can dream, AI can't. Uh, we
well,
can make jokes, we can do irrational things, stupid things, right?
yeah.
AI can't do that.
That is true. That is a good asset we do have. I heard that before, where AI is not good at making jokes.
Hmm.
So at least we'll be funny in the end.
Yeah.
But when AI can start making jokes and being irrational and thinking like that, because right now I think only thing is AI is kind of mean.
Hmm.
It's kind of mean,
Well,
at least from
it's definitely throwing a wrench into like the cog work of the economy. Definitely. So did the pandemic. And I think it's going to cause a different class division than we've had up until now, where the billionaires and millionaires of the future will be the people that control AI, that control technology, and pretty much nothing else.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we make it into the future for a long, long time and get to see all this fascinating stuff happen. And I'm sure, and eventually, and just think we can look back at the show in about 5 years and say, we talked about that, and
Yeah.
we'll see. That's one thing about the internet and saving these shows and things. You can go back and look and see how close we were and what we were talking about and say, I can't believe we talked about that.
Mhm.
We were so wrong, or oh wow, we were right. So I guess that's what being self-aware, like we said, open your heart, trust your heart and not so much your mind sometimes, because I think our intuition really knows what's going on, and our mind is really easily deceived sometimes.
Yep.
So
Exactly. If you listen to your heart, you don't need no 10 commandments. If you
yes,
really listen to your heart, if you have a conscience, You don't need no religion to be a good person.
Yes, yes, exactly. I remember my mother telling me, who was on the show a little while ago during my birthday, and she says she told me once before. She says, "Oh, when you were little, I made you go with your grandma to church because it'd make you a good person." And I looked at her and I said, "So you mean if I didn't go to church, I wouldn't be a good person?" And like
Mhm.
what I would be a horrible, rotten little devil kid or something? What?
No.
You know,
Mm-mm. Either you have it in you or you don't.
yeah,
That's.
yeah. Oh wow. But I think I turned out pretty good, and so did all of you. Regardless if you got into church or not,
Mhm.
it's what's in you, who you really want to be. If you want to be a criminal, you're going to be a criminal, and if you're going to be a
Mhm.
good person, you're going to be a good person. If you're, you know, it's just no getting out of it. You have
Mhm.
to you
Yep.
have to be and change yourself. So there you go. So but remember, everybody, we'll take this out of here with that and say, remember, if you want to be nice, be nice. Be nice to your neighbor. Be nice to yourself. And the most important thing, you got to forget the commandments. Forget all the news and the laws and the things. Be yourself because you want to be that frequency you want to receive, everybody. Love you all. Peace, everybody.